about and trying to figure out ways that we can minister to students that are international students that have come to America for academic study. And so at Belmont and Lipscomb, I know that there are lots of international students. I don't exactly know the numbers, but at Vanderbilt, there's 2,000 international students on campus that have come to make Vanderbilt and Nashville home for this season of their life. So there's ministry opportunity in there. Before I moved to Nashville, I served on collegiate staff in New Orleans at Tulane, and we had a lot of Asian international students, primarily mostly from China, and that would be pretty much the same for Vanderbilt as well. But the one thing that I learned, one of their top desires while being in America to study is simply that they would be able to visit an American home. And so that's a huge opportunity, and that's we'll talk about in a minute, but a way that you can kind of be a part of what we're doing by inviting an international student into your home, because it's different for them. It's different than their culture, and they want to experience that.
Well, and these students are coming from, they're the best and the brightest that are coming to our country to study, and that means they'll be leaders and decision makers when they go back home. And a lot of these students are coming from places that, as Americans, we can't go and share the gospel openly. And so it's really neat to see how God's brought the nations here for us to be able to share Jesus with while they're here. And so what are some ways the Hicks family could adopt a student and take care of this year?
I know Joe. Joe is my camp.
Picked on last week.
Joe is my camp coordinator in the summer of 2006. So he trained me in ministry. So if you're the Hicks family or any other family, a big way is just over breaks. A lot of international students don't have the ability, whether that's funds or COVID restrictions, to travel freely back internationally. Some of that is visa related. Some of them are here on like an education visa, and so there's like certain restrictions and requirements with that. So typically they're looking for a place to stay over holidays and breaks. They love to travel, and so when they're in America, they have a list of places that they probably want to visit and see. New York City is probably top of the list, just places that they've heard about. But a really easy way is just to invite them over for a meal, or open your home, set a couple extra seats at Thanksgiving, and have them over, or offer your washer and dryer so they can come over and do laundry. Because if you haven't been on a college campus, doing laundry on a college campus is not fun. And you have to like watch your stuff the whole time. And so that's just an easy way that you can kind of meet a need, but get to know them and just share your life and your culture. And a part of that is, if you are a believer, being able to share Jesus and why you celebrate Christmas, or what you're thankful for, and being able to share the gospel in that way.
So a lot of these students don't, as you said, don't get to travel, and so they are here by themselves, typically over the holidays. So that's a great way for us to open our homes to share the gospel with international students that are coming here. What are some ways, aside from that ClearView can partner with your ministry?
With BCM, prayer is honestly the top of the list, and we think that prayer, a lot of times we just kind of skip over it, but it's huge. I remember a couple of years ago we started for Tennessee Baptist a particular Sunday in August at the start of the semester. That is the collegiate day of prayer, and we social media promotions and different promotions and in our churches, and asking people to pray. Like, it's not that hard, asking people to pray. And then we got into the semester, and as a collegiate team, because my colleagues are all across the state and we meet every Monday morning on Zoom, we were sharing about the things that the Lord was doing. And my boss was like, guys, we prayed for this. Like, we asked people to pray for this. And so really prayer is the hard work. And so that's a huge way that you could do that. And then mentoring. Just like same with international students, but just taking a college student out to lunch, just getting to know them. Just if you're a financial advisor, like sitting down with a student that's an accountant, or if you're, in the music industry, like sitting down with a music business major from Belmont and just telling them about, like, how did you get where you are? Just nothing hard, just sharing life with them is a huge way. And then we always have, those Pop-Tarts and granola bars, they come from churches like ClearView, just donating, things like that. And so we don't waste anything. We try to use it in some way.
So these things don't just happen. Can you tell us how your work is funded?
Yes. So I am an employee of the Tennessee Baptist Mission Board. And so my salary and the work that I do is funded by people like you sitting in a church giving to your missions offering. And so I have a seminary degree from New Orleans Seminary that is part of cooperative program giving. And then my salary comes out of that collaboration of Baptist churches giving cooperatively to the work and ministry of Baptist life in the Southern Baptist Convention. So I'm employed by Tennessee Baptist Mission Board. And then that state offering that you guys contribute to, 5%, those funds that stay in your state, those funds are used to support our ministry buildings on college campuses. And so at Vanderbilt, we have a building that is located very central in the middle of campus, right along sorority and fraternity row. Our front door, that is soon to be our back door, is right across from upperclassmen housing. And then they've built, if you've been down West End, you've seen this beautiful new residential facility that is brand new residential college that houses students, as well as a brand new cafeteria. And that is currently our back door, but we're undergoing renovations because our building has been there since the 60s. And as campus has grown up, the traffic flow has shifted. And so we're renovating our building to look as nice as the outside of campus, as well as just to meet the needs and the traffic flow of students. But funding we receive to do things like that and to maintain our building and all of our buildings across our state is through that state offering that you give to. And then we also have a BCM of Greater Nashville board. One of our board members is John Garner, that's on your church staff. And so that board oversees our financial aspects of ministry. They approve our budget, but they also help us fundraise. And so we do some fundraising events and things like that where we ask people to give to the ministry of Baptist Collegiate Ministries. And then we're also supported by alumni. And so we try to maintain an alumni base so that they can know what's going on and the beloved campus that they went to and really grew as a part of their faith journey. And so all of those things help us do ministry on campus. It also helps us employ people like Courtney and Zach that you saw in the video. They're now married. They were campus missionaries and not dating at the time, and now they've moved on to married life. But we're able to hire people out of those local budgets that we have for our, through Baptist Collegiate Ministries of Greater Nashville, so that we can help train people in ministry, but also it helps people like me. It helps us have more hands and feet on the grounds. And as a somewhat older person to a college student, those sorts of students really are able to relate because they're much closer in age. So that's a long answer for a short question.
That's okay. Because those dollars translates into stories, into people's lives, and that's why we do what we do. So can you share with us a couple of stories of how lives have been transformed through relationships, through BCM, through, other than the marriage, obviously, but through students who have been impacted through this ministry?
Yeah, one of the reasons I just love college ministry, and I'm really, I didn't really choose college ministry. Like, God chose me to be a college minister, and I'm really grateful for that because of the impact that you get to have. And you don't always see it when it's like when that student is sitting across the desk from you, or when they're, in your ministry. But they grow up, and they go off to do things that you never imagined possible. And just to know that, I was like one little drop in the bucket of being a part of their story. And so it honestly is really hard to pick one, but I told some stories in the first service, and I'm going to tell different ones in the second service, so you have to find your friends and hear about all of them. But I'll tell one story of a student. Her name was Mallory Cox, and it's when I was actually on the campus at Belmont, and she came up to our BCM table at the Campus Life Fair at the very beginning of the semester, and she was actually a grad student. And she was like, oh, BCM, I love BCM. I did BCM in my undergrad, and I want to help out in any way possible. Fast forward, Mallory has graduated. She's a physical therapist. She has a practice and has moved on to a successful career. But every week at Belmont, we have a weekly lunch on Wednesdays, and we run 35 to 40 PT students simply because Mallory came up to our table and said, I want to be involved. And so we have this, and if you know anything about PT school, it's a 3-year program. And so the students that are there now are third years, and they mentor the first years the second years who then mentor the first years. So we have this, we just got to keep playing our cards right, and our BCM there is fed with PT students. And so it's just really neat to see the impact that you get to have and pouring in. And Mallory impacted all of these students' lives. And one time, those PT students, we were there at lunch, and we were doing using the Jesus Storybook Bible. If you don't have that, if you're a parent, I highly recommend that you get it. But we were taking students through some of the highlighted stories in the Jesus Storybook Bible. And so we would simply read the story and just have a brief little devotion on that. And one of those students looked at Mallory and goes, I'm Jewish, and no one's ever told me that the whole Old Testament is about Jesus, that it points towards Jesus. And I thought, wow, yeah, it is, And so just those kinds of things, you get the opportunity to do that. One other story, when I first started at Vanderbilt, I've been in Nashville doing collegiate ministry. It'll be 6 years in January, so about halfway through, I went from Belmont to Vanderbilt. But one of the first students that I had the opportunity to counsel, she came in my office. She was senior year, had been on all these job interviews, and was really stressed out about what job do I take. And I thought, man, a lot of people really wish they had this problem. Her job opportunities were Bloomberg in New York, but she did not like the idea of living in New York City, Facebook, or another company, social media type company that was more of a mom and pop startup that had good morals, had Christian values, but was kind of a startup opportunity. And I looked across the desk at her and I said, if you feel like the more righteous thing to do is to take the lesser job, it's not. And know that God equipped you to get into a school like Vanderbilt, to get a degree, and to graduate and have these sorts of job interviews, and you have a place of influence there, and so you should take Facebook.